Today, I am here, and I'm okay. I don't know what to say.
Today, I am here.
I, I don't know.
Yep.
Welcome to CB's podcast, a creative podcast and a casual podcast. One might call it a casual creative podcast, where we talk about creative pursuits, creative failures, and the things we're learning kind of along the way. I'm Steven, and with me, as always, is my partner in crime, Ralph.
Hello.
Which there's no crimes that we've been convicted of yet, so don't hold this against us. Anyway, today we're going to talk about constraints and not restraints, because we're not arrested. See how I tied that in? I didn't even know I was going to do that. Constraints. Yeah. So,
Nice.
Working within constraints on projects, how constraints can, I'd say most of the time, result in better products, better final results, or at least a better learning experience working within set boundaries, within those constraints, within like limitations, whether limitations you set on yourself or from an external source for, whether that's a client or for an existing project that you're doing something for or whatever. Just talking about what are constraints, how we how they help us grow, and how they could result in better things. So, and maybe other things as we go that we think about. So who knows? But first of all, as you know, we don't actually talk about subject matter at the beginning. So,
True.
Yeah, Ralph, how have you been? How's work been going? Is the workload lifted at all?
A bit. First off, I am getting over a slight cough or some just like cold, I suppose. So you might, I know I should.
You should
tea.
be drinking tea.
I know.
I've got tea right now, and it's
True.
delicious.
I know.
Just quick side note: I got these cool new mugs.
Yeah, that's nice looking.
They're not insulated, and so it's burning my hand at the moment. It's very hot.
That's the pain of that's the price of aesthetics. Burning your fingers.
Painful. Sorry. Anyway, so you're talking about
nothing really to say there. Just like I probably sound slightly nasally. I might like clear my throat or whatever. But it only lasted like a day of it being like kind of bad with like a sore throat that I was definitely uncomfortable.
Did you work out while you were sick?
Yeah.
That was the thing you swore by at one point.
Yes.
Keep working out.
I endured. And again, here's more proof. That's more proof. See, years ago, this probably would have lasted for weeks, but it only lasted like one day of being bad again, and now I just have the residuals of, a lingering cough that's slightly annoying and a bit of like clearing my throat a lot. But otherwise feeling fine. Work-wise, it's better. We're through the big pitch. And I don't know if I updated you last time. Actually, I don't think I had heard officially yet.
No, you hadn't.
But I got the debrief, and they literally greenlit everything that we pitched.
Heck yeah, dude. All right, so that makes it a little bit worth like the effort.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
For the company, at least. I don't know if it makes it personally worth it, but
well, no, I would say it's worth it. It would have been a major bummer if we put in all that work and then they just didn't end up really going with any of it. So they were very, very happy. That was a very successful pitch. So that's good. But, as a result of that, the funniest thing is as a result of that, they have 4 brands. We pitched 3 rebrands. And so now they want to rebrand the other one too. So we got to work basically immediately on that rebrand as well.
You're just too good at this. You're just too good.
I know, and I'll phrase this a little differently than I phrased it before, but basically I don't like this really, but the team I'm on is a very like needed and relied upon team. A lot of stuff goes through us. for one reason or another. We're a pretty solid team. We've got our systems figured out, and they like us. Leadership likes us. So
Sure.
a lot of stuff goes through us, and it's been interesting. I'm getting little insight. I've been there for about almost a year coming up, and I'm now getting more and more insight into like the other art directors, what they're doing, other teams, all sorts of stuff. And it actually is kind of good or encouraging, I could say, because I am hard on myself. And so I frequently find that I think I'm lacking in some way or not doing a good job or whatever. But after, getting insight other areas, it's nice because I kind of feel like we're all in the same boat, and two, the more insight I get, our team really is doing well. I think we're doing well. It's just that because of that, we get all this high pressure work that is very mentally taxing, so
that
it's good and bad, I guess.
Two anecdotes on that one. One, at my previous job, I was told I was the most profitable employee, which means I did good work for less pay, and
oh no,
they could get a lot of work out of me. I think it was kind of meant as a compliment, but when I like actually thought about it, I'm like, I don't know that that's actually what I want to hear.
Right.
But then more recently, in my current job, there was just some like projects we were working on. We had like these big like trainings, and I was just taking notes during it. Like I sent out my notes like from these trainings of like questions that the stakeholders, like users, were asking, how they interacted with stuff, kind of like the UX like research side of things, I guess, of my job, like user testing and like trying to figure out, what are things that are pain points, how can we improve, different things like that. And I took pretty comprehensive notes, and then I like like sent those out to everyone, like on a link through like the tools we use. And then the next one, they were like, the other guy showed me his notes. The guy who was in charge, he was like, "Oh, I was taking some notes too," and his is like 6 bullet points, and I have like 2 pages of like detailed notes and quotes from people and all this stuff. And so then the next time he's like, "Hey, you did a really good job. Can you do notes again?" I'm like, "No, I worked myself into this now. I did a good job, and now people want me to do it." Which like that's not actually a bad thing in this case because it's a small thing, but like I'm like, I'm just gonna start doing really. I told him this. I'm like, so what you're saying is I need to start doing more poorly at things, so you don't ask me to do it again.
Yeah, that's true. There's definitely a correlation between like working hard and being lower on the totem pole.
Yeah, man. Or just work.
They show the thing, right? Like I'm reminded kind of this this idea where the more screens you have, the lower you are. Like the CEO, he works off of like a phone.
Sure.
And that's it. The executive directors would work off of like iPads and their phone. It's the people at the bottom who have like a 3 monitor setup and like
See, so many things they're trying to do
equipment because they are doing the brunt of the work, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a sad fact. We need to somehow make our way to being just cell phone users.
Yeah. So I did a fun thing last week. I mentioned it on the last podcast that we was about to start was the game jam, and we did it, and we got a completed game to some extent. Obviously, it's a game jam. You kind of have to just decide when it's done. Well, the time limit decides when it's done, but like you're like at some point have to wrap up what you're working on so you can have it polished and not have a bunch of loose ends and everything. So the theme for the jam was brewing, and that dropped on Friday. Like, when does this podcast come out? Yeah, so it'll be like it was like 2 weeks ago from roughly when we're recording. And so about 2 weeks ago, whatever. It was that Friday about 2 weeks ago. And they released the theme brewing. And then the next day, Saturday, I met up with my friend who was doing the development work, and we like brainstormed. We'd both come with some ideas like what kind of game we could make. And so we figured like the most popular concept would be like brewing potions, because a lot of people making games are generally into like fantasy, and so like brewing potions, sure.
Brewing, I mean, what are the other options?
Okay,
brewing
so there's
beer?
like brewing beer, coffee, tea.
Yeah, coffee.
Even we had an idea. We're like, oh, what if we did something like A Storm is Brewing? Like, no one's gonna do that. And then there were at least 3 or 4 games submitted around that. Then we're like, okay, what if we like, oh, like Trouble is Brewing, and it's like some mischief thing that you're trying to do stuff. And then like, so several games literally came out with the title Trouble is Brewing. I'm like, okay, we're not actually unique over here. So,
that's okay. All they did was just punch brewing into ChatGPT and see what it spat out.
That's probably what happened.
Probably.
I definitely didn't do that, but we came with ideas originally, and then we used ChatGPT to kind of like. I still came up with
refine it.
Well, kind of. I came up with our own name based on. It helps me like my brain span a little bit, so I was just like some game ideas. Anyway, ours is a little more nuanced because it's related to our theme. But what we chose to do, the style of game, is kind of like a combo between Overcooked, that like chaotic kitchen cooking game where you like pick up ingredients and you have to chop them and you have to cook them and then you have to combine them on a plate and then send it out. And then there's like all kinds of different foods that need mixers or ovens or whatever. And so that mixed with like Plants vs. Zombies, where you're like, have zombies coming down lanes and you're like, oh, we got to plant a thing here, and then it shoots down there. We got to do something here, and to defend, like a defense type thing. So we for some reason decided to make like a pig character as our main character, and then 2 of these like mushroom enemies. One, because I knew actual zombies, which was the idea first, would be harder to draw, especially in a limited time frame. I was like, oh man, speaking of constraints, I mean, I guess this will kind of tie into some of that too. I drew a mushroom character, and then we made like 3 different elemental variations of this. So the caps on the mushrooms, I like did little fires like flames coming out of it. I did like a little poison bog, and then like bubbles for water. And then we treated it like a rock paper scissors Pokemon elemental of like fire beats grass beats water, water beats fire, whatever, except poison instead of grass for ours. But anyway, the actual like brewing part was that you're brewing potions in response to whatever elemental mushroom is coming. So you're like, oh, there's a fire one. I need to brew the water potion. And then to actually do that, there's like, you're in a camp. It's like your kitchen, like Overcooked, and you have plants that grow 3 different like types of crops, like 3 different berries based on elements. And then you have to process them at specific locations and kind of do this little like clicking mini game to like activate it. And then you carry that paste that it makes to the cauldron, fuel the cauldron with fire, and then you get your potion, put in a cannon, another aiming mini game, and shoot it in down the right spot to hit the mushroom. So that was kind of where we landed. We had a lot of ideas, which I can talk about more. But like speaking of constraints and all that too, we'll dig into some of the details about reasons we chose what we did based on timing and everything too. Yeah, anyway, the jam was super fun. Like I think we worked well together, did a good job. And then we're planning on another small like a game right now, just to like kind of get some experience working together. Yeah, it's just an idea that he had that he wants to work on, and then at some point we'll move forward and work on my other video game.
All right. What's the result of the game jam? Like, what happens? They just like announce
so
participants, and there's winners maybe, or something like that?
There are winners. It's all like community voted. So anyone who submits a game is able to vote on games. And so there were 200 game submissions.
Hey, that's actually a lot.
It was a lot. So there were, let me see. Okay, so there were 190 total entries. A couple of them had like fallen through. How many people does it say? Let's go over here. I don't remember. It was like 700 some people, and then there were 200 submissions. But that's like there were like my friend and I submitted one game between the two of us.
Yeah,
some of these were
two
teams
for a game. Some of them, I mean, you've got that's like teams of 8 or 9. I don't know what the math is, but
yeah, there's
some teams would be larger, obviously.
Right. So there were several.
Not fair.
Yeah, how dare they? And then I'm sure people didn't finish and didn't submit. There's some of that too, but
Yeah.
like, it's a pretty good number for that. So essentially, once you submit your game, then it just shows all of the submissions, and you can kind of go through and play them because it's all through itch.io, and it's like a browser with like a bunch of games on there, free, or people can add stuff for paid. But there's a bunch of game jams all connected to it, and so you're able to play their game and then kind of vote based on a series of parameters. So like, I'm trying to pull up the voting here too. Okay, so you can rate out of 5 stars for theme, fun, controls, graphics, audio, accessibility, and originality. And so then those will all be compiled, and then by the end of the jam, voting ends like a week after. So by the time this podcast airs, the results will be in, but it'll end this Sunday.
With 200 games, there's no way everyone's going and playing every game and rating.
No, like some that I just pulled up had like 6 ratings. Some have like 2. Others I've seen have like 40.
Probably the ones that, well, only people who submit can.
Yeah.
Huh.
So there's 700
maybe there's
people.
Some word of mouth that like, oh, this one's really good.
And the thing is, you can also comment on them. So like if someone comments on your game, if someone comments on my game, like there's more of a chance I'm going to go and like, hey, they checked my game out, I'll go check their game out. So it's like you're helping people out that kind of interact with yours. So our game has gotten 19 ratings. Some pretty good feedback. Some people saying like it's really challenging, controls were tricky, some difficulties because we had this weird
controls tricky.
It's a weird left click, right click thing, and people were like, I didn't always know what to do, but like the UI covered that.
Idiots.
I mean, I do agree. It's not like the most intuitive, but like we didn't spend a lot of time.
Literally, the tutorial spells it out. Like so.
There's
simply.
that. There's that too.
Anyways, I mean, whatever. I'm biased, of course, but
yeah,
I had no hand in making this. By the way, just so people know.
Sure. But overall, like, I mean, a lot of the feedback was like, hey, this is awesome. It was a little challenging, but it was great. Only like one person had some real gripes about like controls were kind of unintuitive, but of like a bunch of other comments, we got like 12 comments or something, which is like pretty good for the group. But a lot of people were like, almost every comment as part of their comment was like, hey, this looks great. The graphics are amazing.
Yeah.
All this stuff.
It looked really polished, and the controls, in my opinion, felt responsive and smooth and quick, and like as a Spurg, that appeals to me, of course.
Yeah,
it's fast paced. It felt responsive. I don't know. To me, it felt intuitive enough.
Yeah. So. I think it was smooth, and once you got it
hard
down,
though. I will say it's a challenging game. That's fair, but
it's called Potion Mayhem. So like mayhem, but May-ham.
See, the reason I read that, or the way that I read that, it's so dumb. Like it's so obvious.
How do you read it?
It's so obviously about like mayhem. I get it.
Yeah.
But I read it as like some really weird spin on Devil May Cry. Potion Mayhem. I don't know why that's where my brain goes, but
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets pretty tense. I'll put a link down in the podcast description for those of you who want to try it out. It's just to open it up on a computer, on your PC or Mac or whatever, on a browser.
Plays right there in your browser. Really.
External mouse is probably best. I don't know how the left click or right click would work on like a trackpad.
Right, that would be difficult.
If someone tried to do that commented, that would understandable.
Maybe that's the problem. I'll give some grace.
Yeah,
maybe
I'll go ask him. Be like, hey, what did you use? Are you just dumb, or did you just not like it?
Right.
Anyway, the jam was awesome. We'll see what the results are. I'll send an update out next time.
What happens with the winners?
There's nothing on this one. This one is a jam that's run like monthly, so it's just like a Godot wild jam. So like the
bragging rights.
Yeah, and it's experience. I mean, the whole purpose of these jams is to like get a finished product out there, to get something done.
Every month, and there's like 200 submissions. That's wild.
I know, and like
That's
a lot of the people on there, like this is their second submission or even just their first. So like it cycles through a lot. It's not even like repeat people every time, but the fact that they get this many new people every time, like, is pretty crazy. It's there's somewhere on there you can go and look at like all the other jams they've hosted. This was the 82nd jam they've done. So they've been doing this, or sorry, 92nd. They've been doing this for 92 months in a row. Yeah. So I mean, it's really cool. It's a great experience. Like, I've never done this. Like, if you go to the link, you can see some screenshots in there if you don't want to actually play the game. But so like all the assets and the different meters and the things, I'm like, I've never drawn this much stuff in my life. And like, if you look closely, there's some jank there for sure. Like, not super clean lines, which like the style doesn't. There's soul. The style doesn't need clean lines. Like, some things are a little pixelated because I just like I drew them too small, and then I just kind of expanded them. And I'm like, oh, that'll be fine. I don't have time. And then like it's some of the overlap, like where the mushrooms are actually walking, you can like see they're like over top of some of the assets, and like there's random stuff like that. But I drew like 4 different states for all the plants where I've got like empty crop, and then you pick a berry, and then it like goes to like a little sprout, and then like a little seedling, and then a sprout, and then like the full thing. So there's some fun, a couple animations in there for some things. But
also shout out to whatever his name is,
Reese, my development partner. He did awesome. Like, the way he cranked out in this short amount of time is crazy. Even building in a full freaking tutorial, like, not even just like, okay, we got something there. But like, he went and like, okay, well, now that we have something, he went and built out a whole like introductory tutorial of like, do this thing, great, and now the next piece like appears on the screen. And so like, just kind of it was great. So he did awesome. And like, if you go to the link, you can find his page on there too. He's got a couple things, but I created an official Sea Beasts itch page. So like, if we ever get some small games, this one will be connected to that. So.
I did see that. I saw artwork extravaganza something by Sea Beasts.
Wait, artwork extravaganza?
Something. It was like the credits mentioned Sea Beasts as the handle.
Oh, in the description of the game. I was like, did someone tag us in some other random game? I was very confused. No. Sorry. I'm tracking. So
it.
Yeah.
It's clocking to you.
Yes. Anyway, one other update. I also have, after this game jam, it like sparked some momentum, and I've been illustrating the book for Wally. And I did like a whole page and a half in the last 4 or 5 days since the jam has ended. I took like a couple of days off, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna go dive into that, and it's been great. I like finished out a whole page that I'm super happy with, that I haven't even sent you before. And then I went to a new page, and I've like inked out the whole thing, and I've been coloring it all now, and I'm gonna go into shading, and like, it's cruising, dude. Cruising.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna send you this. It's like the flashback scene where they're talking about the Dawn Keepers, the ancient protectors of the Breakfast Kingdom.
All right.
And I made it look like an old timey black and white with like the lines and the film, not film grain entirely, but yeah, and it's showing like the forging of the ancient blades, the potatoes that we talked about. I think I've mentioned this page that's been just plaguing me for a while. And so I finally went through and like rendered it out. So
yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, thanks. It'll be really interesting to see how these actually like look printed, because I feel like sometimes it doesn't quite feel right. But I don't know. Maybe things are.
Well, yeah, obviously handling it in real life and it being tangible changes how it actually comes across.
Yeah,
the delivery mechanism is very important.
Yeah. Anyway, so those are some of my updates. So, do you have any extracurriculars? Any shows, games, things?
Shoot, no, not really. I was just literally all I was going to mention was the update for the job stuff and then having been sick.
Good
Like the
times.
stuff that I was working on and then
Yeah.
being sick. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah.
All right, well let's jump into constraints then, I guess. So, since we just talked about the game jam thing, I feel like that's a good place to like dig into and highlight some of the constraints, some of the points of like that kind of a focused uh design event, whatever. Um, so if you don't know what a game jam is, it is a limited window of time that you have to create a game based on a theme that is announced at the beginning of that time frame. In this case, ours was like a 9-day jam. So like day 1, they release a theme, and then everyone that signed up that wants to do the jam makes a game based around that theme. They can interpret it however they want. And then at the end of 9 days, you have to have something submitted, and then like the window closes, you can't submit anything after that time frame. So it's kind of your main constraint that we're talking about is time. So, but with that, you kind of have to figure out. You have to really focus in on your scope and like what you're going to work on. So like, okay, I've got 9 days to make something. If you're doing it by yourself, which there's a lot of people that have done like do some of these by themselves. That being said, everything is of various qualities depending on their skill sets. So like if they're a talented programmer, then they might have a mechanically great game, but then like the artwork might be some like pretty, basic shapes or something like that, which like if it feels smooth could still be good. So it's a balancing act like with this kind of thing. So these constraints, like with time, you're figuring out your scope. And so we knew we had 2 people, and one was a developer and one was an artist. But at the same time, we also needed sound effects and music and to create like the page that the game lives on, and like some other graphics for that. Like pull screenshot. Like there's all these like random little tasks we had to do too that maybe we didn't quite think about. So like I'm kind of rambling at this point, but I think what I'm trying to say with the game jam and the built-in constraints is you have to really prioritize your time and figure out what you can do within those constraints. So if your limitations are time, you need to kind of design and build things in a way that are repeatable and do things in a way that can optimize that time. So one example that I gave was the enemies. I knew I suck at drawing people, and so if I had to draw like a zombie person and do any kind of animation or to add to it or draw variations of that, it'd take me a lot longer. So I chose enemies to be these mushroom characters that are very blobby, and like they don't have fingers, they just have little stumps on their feet and stumpy hands. And like their body is just a blob with like a cap on top. And I added some details up there. But then for animation, I did like a three frame, I guess technically like a 4-frame animation for both the main character and the enemies. And essentially it's like static, like right foot out, static again, left foot out. And that was their walking. And then for attacking, once they got there, I just did like they have one lean back and then a really deep lean forward, so their heads are just bashing against the wall.
Yeah.
And then it just repeats that. But like it was the simplest animation that could add some life to it and do that. So like in some sense, I'm like, these actually are kind of a fun animation as a result of these constraints. Like if I would have just been like, I'm gonna design an enemy that animates for this game, like I probably would have gone through a lot more effort and a lot more frames and details that maybe wouldn't have added to the actual game. And so like having this limitation is just like I'm spitting something out and we're moving on. And then you learn from it. So yeah, I think that's what like the biggest thing from the constraints of this game jam for me at least was just like get something done, get something out, and it's good enough. And like if you have to make some tweaks, that's fine. I feel like I get in so many personal projects and other things, I just get like stuck in this like limbo state, or like research hell, or whatever, of just like scrolling through inspiration and planning and figuring out what I want to do. Whereas with this kind of prompt to like get going, and with the limited time, I couldn't sit in that. So I would just make something and like it, make it work. So I think that was a really good practice, really good experience for me. And then like the amount of assets that I created, there's things I would do differently. There's things I would refine. Like if we ever wanted to make this into a commercial release or anything like that, it's not to that level, but um there's some things I'm proud of that turned out really good. So
yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Like on time constraints, or we can just whatever thoughts on constraints in general. Like what have you been thinking about this topic?
Well, you see, this happen sometimes with successful things. They're born from a rough idea first. So I feel like this does happen in development, where a idea gets proof of concept gets pushed forward in either, I don't know, a Kickstarter or a game jam or whatever. And then you've got the rough idea there. And then really from there, it is expanding on the idea and refining it. But the time constraints helped you get the proof of concept done. I feel like with game jams, the valuable thing is you have to get through it all, and you don't put it off. You just get it done, and then you really do just you register the ways in which you could refine it in the future.
Sure.
But at least you work through the whole process from start to finish one time through. And doing that, I feel like working on working through a project from start to finish that's rough, like several times, is going to be more valuable than working the same amount of time on one project and really trying to like make it perfect, because you're probably not going to, and there's going to be more lessons learned in all of the rough iterations of an idea.
I mean, I think that's probably why I felt motivated to get back into like doing the illustrations for the book, because I feel like I learned a lot through the game jam. And so like, since I was going so quick and putting so many things out, like I learned a lot of like techniques or different things about my process very quickly. And so like, yeah, doing that from start to finish was like, was super helpful. And so I think, I think that's exactly what happened. And then I was like, oh, I learned something from this. Now I can apply this and like feel like I'm improving and getting better, and like,
yeah, you could do another game jam, and the next one will probably be more polished, have more little tricks, and you'll just pick things up along the way until, you're to the point where eventually you could do like a actual, what do you call the game version? I want to say feature length, but that's just the movie industry.
like commercial release?
Commercial release, yeah, of
maybe
like a game or something.
Yeah. That's I've seen that. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos recently about game design and different things too, and like sorry, this is all related to games at the moment, but that's where I've been living the last couple of weeks. But I mean, general creative things, it can apply for other things too. But the idea was that like that I've seen a lot, and some things that kind of resonated with me in some videos, was that you don't want to make polished prototypes. Like you don't want really polished prototypes, because you want to figure out if the idea is good before you invest all the time in making it appear good. Like you want to put the time in to make something, get that MVP, that minimum viable product, to see if the concept is worthwhile and worth spending more time on. And that doesn't mean to have like all these crazy like detailed animations and frames, or if you're like writing a book, you don't want to go and like, I don't know, write one chapter and then edit the crap out of it and like keep going until that one chapter is perfectly refined, because you don't have the rest of the book. Like, is the rest of the book still going to flow? After that, like, is the overall book idea good, or whatever medium you're working on? Like, there's some element of a draft state, for art, for games, for films, like scripts and things like that too. All of these things, like, you want to figure out if the idea is worth investing in before you like dive into over polish and over like edit a single area. And that these kind of game jam type things, or I used to do like some daily drawing prompts, and those kind of small things with like short limitations and small scopes are really helpful in just finishing something and just figuring out process. And it gets you to like through that stage of like, oh, I've got this dream game, this dream idea, and I'm just gonna just keep hammering away at this for 10 years. And like, it works for some people, but I'd say it's the exception and not the norm. I think you need to figure out if it's something worth spending time on before like digging fully in.
Yes. Well, we've seen examples of this, sticking with the video game topic, where a video game has essentially like unlimited time and backing and has like, you know, 8 years of development, 10 years of development,
Development
insane stuff.
hell is what they call it.
And meanwhile, like, and then the game comes out and it's somehow just unoptimized, buggy, problems, and the core isn't even that good.
Yeah.
Literally, this happens constantly. And meanwhile, you look at games from years ago that had like a 2-year development cycle, and they're like a million times better than the ones with unlimited budget, unlimited development cycle, and like 500 people working on the game. Less is truly more in that. I just feel like you lose focus because you when your limit is nothing, how do you find focus? How do you push an idea when there's no idea in the first place? I'm trying to think, like, to push an idea, there has to be rules. There has to be set boundaries. There has to be rules. And then you push within those limits. You can't push an idea where it's just everything forever all at the same time. It just becomes very unfocused, cluttered, messy. Like a game that I'm thinking of right now is Crimson Desert.
Dude, it has everything in it.
Oh, yeah, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So like that's a good example of a game that just shoved every single popular thing from every game that's ever existed into it. And
it's working for a lot of people, but
a lot of people do like it, but trust me, it should have been better if they had just solidified a really good core game loop. It just gets lost in the weeds.
Yeah, I mean, it's scope creep. It's like you have I've done this with board games that I was working on in the past with other things. It's you get an idea. You're like you're working on it. You've got your direction. You do it. You're like, but what if we added this? Or like, what if this was a thing? And it's hard to check yourself. Like, there's a lot of times where I'm like, okay, but the game doesn't need this. Like, you need to have that vision and that intentionality with the design and like with your scope, because otherwise it does just become a hodgepodge of random stuff all jumbled together because you don't have a clear direction, a clear vision for that.
Yes. Yeah. And some of the best artistic expressions I've ever seen have been through whatever limitations. And it doesn't even have to be, it can be artificial limitations as well. Like you can give yourself constraints. Like, I mean, classic one would be, we're going to do PlayStation 1 style graphics. That's going to be the thing. And we're going to work within that like hardware constraint, even though it's maybe artificial, but that's what we're working with. And then you can really hone in your vision. Some people even work with like a limited palette, like we're going to lean really far into this. and then you can have moments where it breaks free from that and the contrast creates a big moment.
Yeah.
Something like that. Limited space, like Amnesia: The Bunker comes to mind as well, because like literally it's the whole game just takes place in this bunker with these set areas with set rules and then a set task list to get through in order to escape. It just like puts you in this place. The rules are drip fed to you in a beautiful way, by the way. Like game design, even if you're not a fan of horror games and you're interested in game design, you should study The Bunker, Amnesia: The Bunker, because it is like a masterclass in how to establish like rules without relying on really lazy techniques like the yellow paint epidemic. It doesn't do any of that.
Okay.
So like really, really well done. It just like gives you these rules. There is randomness too. Like every playthrough isn't the same. They randomize things like locker codes and like what's in the lockers and where different items are going to appear that you need. So like it's so great. But all of that, in my opinion, is born from a constraint of saying, we're not going to let this thing become huge. It's a small game, but it's so focused as a result.
Yeah.
Because they really took the idea and pushed it in a good way. It's not perfect, but it did a lot of stuff right. And so it stands out in my mind as one of those where they definitely had the budget to do more, could have done more. But I think they just kind of were like, nope, you know what? We're going to pare down and see what we can do with this idea and flesh it out really thoroughly instead of adding all like stuff that would have lost focus, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a good example for sure. I'm trying to think like if you I don't know if this is helpful or not, but if you're like wanting to create something, so you're working on a piece of art or a game or whatever, like some ideas I just had for like that we kind of mentioned of like if you're like, hey, I want to create something with a limited scope, like find a color palette and only use that color palette, or like use like a drawing prompt from somewhere. Inktober is always an interesting like thing where they have daily prompts to like draw and like that one is Inktober specifically is like using ink pens, but like I've just done it as for other drawing things too. But like that one has a limitation on the medium, like a constraint is there's like, hey, use like just ink pens, and so you're like inking a drawing every day based on these prompts, and like it's just a good challenge to yourself, a good experience to like do something like that. But if you're doing something on your own, like there's plenty of things you can find out there of like daily prompts for whatever you're looking for, photography, for drawing, for whatever. But there's always things you can do of like limiting your medium, limiting your color palette, limiting there's things you can do to like add limitations, and then seeing what you can create within those limitations is always kind of fun. So I guess another aspect of this, how do you think this applies to your work? Like, do you feel like they're like working for like designing something for a specific brand? Do you feel like having their brand guidelines and their colors and their fonts and whatever, specifications they give you, do you feel like those constraints like are helpful to be like, let you come up with something creative? Or I guess it depends on what the work is. If it's something that's straightforward collateral, it's not always, there's not much room for creativity, but like those kind of constraints, do you feel like those are beneficial to let you like explore within those?
Yes.
Kind of.
It depends on the brand though.
Okay.
Because some brands are just bad and just difficult to work with. Like, perfect example is one of the rebrands we did recently. The one that I worked on. We did this one, and essentially, I'm trying to figure out how I should describe it. Basically, their brand prior to the rebrand that we did was vector illustration based. Okay. So it's going to be like backgrounds and a character, and all of the elements to build it were like these flat vector components that worked together. And it was also space themed. So it's going to be like the space and a bunch of stars and you know, all of its vector. And then they also had like this bright accent color, but it was being used as like large containers, which isn't right for an accent, you know. And then their other primary was sometimes used in large blocks as well. And crazy thing is the whole thing just always looked flat, which is like the opposite of what space is supposed to feel like. So anyways, what I did is I tried to build, anytime I try to build a brand, actually it is building, in a way, intelligent constraints, right? You enforce limitations so that it stays consistent, so that it looks good, so that it's well thought out and feels unique, hopefully. So that was my goal. And, you know, after that is established properly, then yes, totally. It helps everything feel better. It also helps you stay on track because you're not just like, okay, well, I can do anything. So now I don't know what to do. Now I have no focus at all.
It adds like cohesion. It's almost like it's like Lego blocks. Like if you have a small group of Legos, you know, you have to get creative with how you use them. And there's like, but you have the building blocks of what you can make, and like you can use those building blocks kind of in any way. But this doesn't exactly apply to brands, I guess. But you have to like be creative and like, okay, Lego blocks are generally square and they have sharp corners. There's obviously a lot that don't, but like, or there's angles and stuff. But people build like crazy things that look really good, even on a small scale. They can make like really cool figures and things that you can tell what they are right away. But like using these like small little like bricks and stuff. Anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent of my thoughts there, but
that's true.
So like with like brands, you're kind of building those building blocks. It's like one, it makes it easier for people using it because they don't have to be like, they don't have like decision fatigue or analysis paralysis of like, what font should I use? Okay, you're doing this. This is the font you use. Oh, great. So it like frees them up to kind of frees people up to do the work that they're supposed to be doing and not have to like spend brain power or think outside of the other elements too.
Yeah, it would come in stages. The first stage, like if you're literally starting fresh, trying to establish something creative, you need like this inherent creativity spark to find your vision. And then from there, you figure out the necessary components for that vision, and then you try to put it together well. Once you have all that, those are almost like your guide for the rest of it. And then like depending on what you're working on, you try to fit the components and the style into that thing. If it's like a character drawing, if it's a whatever font choice, or all of those things eventually get built up, and then you can just focus on, oh, okay, well, I'm working on a page of this book. I know I need to use this font because that's the brand, quote unquote. I know I need to use this font. I need to use this header. I need to use this weight and point size. I need to then position the photo or the illustration like this, and we know how those illustrations are supposed to work. All that, and what color palette should generally be leaning towards, you know.
And those like perceived limitations of like, oh, I only have this one or two fonts to use, like think about like the book I'm working on specifically. Like that actually eases my mind because if the fonts are there, then I don't have to think about it. And it's not every page that I'm like, what font do I use now? It's dialogue. I'm going to use this. The book text is this. Like it took some initial like figuring out for some of that, and like same with we're talking about like color palette or even character design. But now like I know what Wally looks like, and so I can put him in different scenarios. That lets me be creative with how he interacts with the environment because of how his body moves and how I designed him. And like it just I have to be creative in my perspectives and different things because like he doesn't have many joints as a waffle, you know.
Yeah.
He's one chunk with hand like arms and legs. And
Yep.
so like there's not even like a waist for like bending or anything like that. It's kind of like I have to I can still bend him a little bit, and I do that sometimes. But like anyway, yeah, which that actually like brings up the book in general is a really good example of working within constraints. The first, I think I told this before, the first time I wrote like a story about like Wally the Waffle, I just kind of started writing in a Google Doc, and it became this kind of slightly more expansive, like novelized version of a book, of a story that I wrote. But it kind of like kept going, and I could just keep adding, and like I kept coming up with new worlds and new things. Like, oh, I should introduce these things, and like there wasn't like a clear vision for how it should end, how like where it's like I had a plot there, so like that's kind of part of a limitation, I guess, in terms of where I can take the story. Um, but the idea of this being a children's book like didn't apply to the story that I wrote. So when I moved forward and been like, okay, well, I can't. It's hard to adapt this to a children's book. It wasn't working. So when I wrote a new story specifically for the limitations of a children's book with like a limited number of pages, and I can't have too many. Like I set like a word count of like I can't go over this word cap because then it gets too wordy for like the age group. Need to be careful with like which vocabulary and which words I'm using because like some of them are going to be over that. Like not that I can't ever use things outside of that, but I don't want to like talk in sophisticated sentences for a book for like 5-year-olds. Like sure, it can have some words that maybe they don't know right away, but like they can learn it. But I think the biggest constraint that really helped polish this book that I'm working on is like the page limitation, like the number of pages. Like I went over somewhat. Like generally, if you're publishing through a publishing company, they want like 32 page caps. Like your books need to be like 32 pages. And that's like, okay, how many full spreads am I doing? What's like how much, illustrations, how much of that is story versus like details. Like some pages you need a title page, you need like a copyright page or something like that. So there's like already constraints within that. So I started with that, and when I plotted out the story and I started writing, it became like, oh, this is like 50 pages now. Like that's too much. So it helped me really like pare down the story and like go through and cut. And even though like you can kind of really feel, it helps you figure out what's the most important pieces of. And so there were, excuse me, there were scenes I wrote or things that the characters did that were just kind of felt like fluff. Like they were there, or like they connected things, but they weren't crucial. So it was super helpful to be like, have that limitation and it's like, okay, I've got 50 pages. I need to cut it down. I need to cut like 10 pages. So I'm like, okay, go through and like nix this scene, like cut some writing, combine things into a page. I ended up giving myself like a 40-page cap because then I felt like that gave me enough to tell the story that I was trying to do, and being a little longer and self-publishing is fine. I didn't care. So I think, but it helped polish the story and helped refine it. And I think that was super helpful, kind of like having that constraint of how long the story is going to be. It helps get rid of some of the bloat and the stuff that like wasn't aiding the story, and helps it become a more polished like end product.
Well, yeah, less is more, as they say.
Yeah.
Right?
So. Which it gets hard. There's the thing about like kill your darlings. Have you heard that phrase?
Yes.
You can't get too attached to any element of your work, and it's sometimes you have to, I can't remember the whole phrase, but essentially it's like things that you really like, if it's not aiding the final product in a way, like you need to be able to cut it. And so like, even though it's like a thing that you thought was a good idea, it still might be a good idea. If it's not, helping your final thing, you don't need it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that takes some self-awareness.
It's hard. There were some pages where I'm like, I really like this scene, but it's not really adding anything, or it's not connected. And, and I cut it, and it's for the better. So
yeah. Yeah. And the experience and time spent building stories and stuff will make that process probably smoother and easier as well.
And really, I should just have like a 0-page count so that I just cut all the story. If I just get rid of it entirely, then there's no bad elements to it. So
I bet some editors would argue that, because I wonder, because this would be the part that I would struggle with story writing, is the part where it goes to the editor and they hate the whole thing. And I would have to, I feel like you have to make a tough decision at that point where you have to understand maybe some stories are just not going to broadly appeal.
Sure.
But that could be more impactful for some audiences that are just more niche. That would be the part where I struggle. I feel like if I send a story off to a editor or whatever, they just say like, okay, this breaks every single rule there is, and the entire thing needs to change, and you need to start over from the ground up. And I'd be like, but all of the rules that this breaks for you are why it's good. That's what I would be saying.
And that's why we started our own company, to do whatever we want.
Exactly.
So
cool. I would, that's my issue, is I make stuff for me mostly, not necessarily for other people. But
I think there's a way to find the balance.
Probably, yes. Yeah, that's an area I could grow in, would be like balancing artistic integrity with genuinely decent feedback that should be listened to. I think there's a balance to be found there for sure.
Yeah, something to think about. Well, that is all the time we have for this episode. If you want to check out the game, Potion Mayhem, that is Potion space May-ham. If you can go to itch.io, you can Google it. I'll also put a link in. You can Google it. You can just search for it on itch. Don't Google it on itch.
Ask ChatGPT about it.
Yeah. There you go. Anyway, I'll put a link in the description. You can find it there, or go find it on itch if you want to check it out. I've also posted a link and some stuff in our Discord. So if you want to join our community in Discord and chat there, a couple of guys, a couple of people are chatting in there, and we're sharing creative stuff. There's other people working on like board games. Limited pool of people right now, but it's been fun just kind of seeing what other people are doing. You can find a link to our Discord at seebeasts.com. That's SEE beasts.com. I think that's it. Yeah. Anyway, thanks again for being here. We'll see you all next time.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye.